Hello and welcome to the World Builders Library. Today is Toby's follow-up. If you don't recall, we built this 5th level human vampire warlock, although the vampire thing is pretty much just flavor. A few thoughts before we move forward. First, it wouldn't hurt to watch that video before continuing. Second, in case I didn't make it clear, Toby is a very simple guy. In a fight, he casts darkness, which most of his fellows can see through just fine. If a fireball is appropriate, he'll use it. If there is a clear and obvious target, he might use a ray of enfeeblement. Normally, he just starts throwing around Eldritch Blasts. He's +8 with 2 bolts at an amazing range, doing 1d10 plus 5, or 11 points of damage per hit. Invisibility is his escape tactic, and he'd much rather run than die. In his free time, he produces alchemical poisons, potions for the Coven's use or sale, or uses his medical skills to contribute to the spread of disease and pestilence. Alright, that's it for Toby. You're out of here. Now, he's Yorland. Now we're going to be taking him to 17th level. We're going to try and do that kind of quickly, because let's face it, you can read the player's handbook, and if you don't have one, the rules are scattered all over the internet. My job is to give a little commentary. Most of that is going to be devoted to some insights into development of this clash between Nogda vampires and the party. At 5th level, 38 hit points is normal for a warlock with a con bonus. That's 4 hits or 2 rounds of action against an equal level fighter. I guess 1 with action surge. On the other hand, 2 rounds is 4 Eldritch Blasts or 44 hit points. That's not far off from the fighter's total. Eldritch Blast Warlocks are one of the top damage doers in the game, and that's not counting the ability to toss around fireballs or take someone right out of the fight with a command spell, hypnotic pattern, or something similar. At 17th level, Yorland will have at least 122 hit points, more actually because we end up picking up another point of constitution. However, it's now just a round's damage for an equivalent level fighter. Probably with action surge, and that is assuming the fighter can properly engage. Yorland has a lot of new tricks, and let's find out what those might be. At 9th level, Yorland gains Contact Patron. Rules as written, this allows a free casting of Contact Other Plane once per day. If you use this spell normally, normal casting, not with this ability, you have to make a save. A failure messes you up for a day. Success means you get to ask 5 questions. With this ability, you don't need to make the save. And there's nothing wrong with just running it straight forward like this. It is a powerful source of information, especially in a game where you might have some downtime measured in weeks. For an individual like Yorland, I'm loosening things up a little bit. He's got 5 questions a day, but without the casting process. It's kind of like constantly being working. He's got this ongoing dialogue with his demonic overlord. This is kind of a big deal, giving god tier information at a conversational level, but I mean, this guy is the leader of one of the most powerful factions in direct service of what are essentially demigods. He's earned it. 11th level, Mystic Arcanum. Now, Warlocks, if you didn't know, are limited to 5th level spell slots, but through Arcanums, they gain individual higher level spells. That means, like many subclasses, different Warlocks are going to look very differently based on their individual choices. At 11th level, Yorland gains access to 1 6th level spell that he can use once per day. This is all in the Warlock ability chart, but by 17th level, he has gained a 7th, 8th, and 9th level spell. We're going to go with Arcane Gate because he does a lot of the facilitating of moving people around. 7th, we're going to go Offensive. Finger of Death. That's a nice one. 8th level, Dominate Monster, because you never know when you're just going to have to take over somebody's life. And 9th level, Gate. Once again, he is in charge of moving a lot of people around. I think for a backdrop thing here, might turn into something later in the campaign. There's going to be a developing plot to moving over like 1,000 or 10,000 Vrock. This goes in line with one of our other videos. It's information they could get at that Villeneuve Oasis thing on the ethereal plane we talked about last week. All right, back to reality. Along his journey to 17th level, Yorlin has also picked up 8 more prepared spells. Let's make them Vampiric Touch, because why not? Planar Binding, Teleport Circle, Blight, Gaseous Form, Scrying, Dimension Door, and Hellish Rebuke. He now has 4 spell slots to use them with. Again, all 5th level. He also now has 9 total invocations. We are adding Witch Sight, Gift of Depths, Fiendish Vigor, and Whispers of the Grave. Finally, we gain 3 new feats. Never rule out the benefit of simple ability score increases. A lot of people prefer them. It keeps the character more simple. But I really like the depth of action that feats grant. There's no wrong answer here. Do what works for you. So we want a point of intelligence for optimization and 2 points for, well, I already spoiled it earlier. We've picked up a point of con. It was kind of a tough decision early on. Spell Sniper is going to be our point of intelligence. No, I'm not the expert I appear to be. Yes, I verified cantrips count as spells, so Spell Sniper is going to work with Eldritch Blast. I did go with Con over Dex, and we did that through Skill Expert, which gave me Persuasion and Expertise in Deception, and we picked up Speedy to make him as evasive as possible. As I said in previous videos, I would love for this guy to engage the party and escape to fight another day, but we'll see how that works out. It's going to depend a lot on party choices and how they move forward. As foreshadowed in the preceding video, the Dark One's own Luck, his first subclass ability, or his 6th level subclass ability, gives him a number of D10s that he can add to D20 rolls over the course of the day. At 10th level, he gets Fiendish Resilience, which gives a resistance to anything but force damage. Basically, you pick it each morning when you wake up. Finally, at 14th, it's Drag Through Hell. I really like this one, if just for the name. It's a little bit all or nothing, as it only works on a failed charisma save. Then again, as long as you're not targeting the Bard or another Warlock, charisma isn't exactly a valued attribute. Of course, at this level, if they do fail, there's all kinds of extra dice that they can roll, but at least you are forcing them to burn resources. This is, by the way, why you force lots of saves in a high-stake fight. They will eventually fail, they'll use up their extra dice, and eventually you're going to get one through. Turning one of your PCs into a potted plant is absolutely priceless. It makes DMing worth it. So what exactly does this thing do? It does a pretty good chunk of psychic damage, and it takes the individual completely off the battlefield for a full round. So what is Yorlin's spell DC? I'm assuming at some point he's picked up a 22 charisma, maybe through wish magic, maybe through a magical device. 2 of my 15th level PCs have 22s, so while it is a big deal, it's not unheard of, and somebody in this high-ranking, high-level position, it's certainly a possibility. So that's going to be the base of 8, plus 6, pro bonus of 6, and we're going to give him a very nice enchanted magical focus. So it's a lot. Do the math, carry the 1. That is a DC of 22. That's going to burn a lot of Bardics, a lot of Inspirations, and any other dice that they have. Hopefully he's going to be able to get off multiple spells and scare the bejeebus out of the party. May not actually get anything to go through, but if we're in a big fight, you've got to allocate, where all those extra things are going to be used. So maybe they fail a save against a littler guy with just like a whole person or something that takes them out for a round. Even though they got by these big scary saves, it can still hurt them. The majority of Nogda Vampire Warlocks, the Tobys of the group, they're going to have a spell DC of 8 plus 3 plus 5 for 16s, and that's not bad. If I can force at least 3 saves around from commands and rays of enfeeblement, fears, and hold persons, I'm going to get some people. So that's Yorlin. He's still primarily attacking through Eldritch Blasts, 4 per round. The damage doesn't go up, except it's just more attacks. He is quite likely to successfully make contact to hit. So it's reliable, consistent. He's also got a few nice spells. The Finger of Death, is obviously impactful. Primarily, he is a commander type. He is the person that runs things. But in a fight, he's still formidable, and believe me, he's going to have allies there on his side, even if they catch him somehow, somewhat unaware. All right, part 2. What is our in-game situation? The Delta Coast is about the size of Montana. It's a little bit wetter, though. It's about 600 miles on a north-south coast. A lot of weather comes in from the west, and it reaches about 200 miles inland. There are some mountain ranges, things get hotter. That defines the borders of the Delta Coast. These are city-states. There are entangling alliances. They do fight from each other from time to time over the decades. And that coast itself is pretty worthless. A lot of marshes, mangroves. There are very few spots for coastal settlements. It's still a sea power, however, with ports upstream from major rivers. This is similar to London. This is similar a little bit to Paris. You wouldn't have seen big warships in Paris because it's too far down the river. But point being, it is a military power both on the ground and shipping through a strong navy. Climate is technically tropical as it is stabilized by the sea. These big storms, hurricanes, tropical waves, they are very common. The culture is built on 4 pillars: military tradition, nihilism, the sea, and coffee. The primary religions here are the churches of entropy, and they're basically trying to kill off all their followers. It's a spooky place to live. Between rain and people throwing themselves off towers, the place can get a little bit depressing. It's also a great place for the forces of Dagon to operate. The Nogda vampires have spearheaded things around here for the forces of Dagon for decades. At this point, they have basically taken over the north. 3 major cities are firmly in hand, to the point that demons don't necessarily walk the streets, but the vampires do. They are firmly and openly in charge. And if it weren't for some meddling PCs, they would probably take over the whole coast eventually, not too far down the road. The campaign is currently in the city of Skalza. It has a strong but covert Nogda presence. The party, in fact, has kidnapped the head of the Temple of Boiling Flesh in hopes of finding the location of something called the Poisoners Guild. And this organization is directly linked to the Nogda. However, they have not gotten this priest back to a secure location, and there's about to be a showdown. You see, the bad guys as a whole know that the party is in town, and they know about the party. Local forces, not so much, but at a higher level they have all that nice high-level communication stuff, so they've been able to disseminate some information. The bad guys versus the party is like 1-on-1 in major operations. The party thwarted their attempt to take possession of the apparatus of Qualish, but in earlier conflicts they failed to prevent the summoning of their last major demon lord ally, Trax Beha, part of Dagon's cabal. Now since then, Melanoma has been whacked, so she's out of the picture. They're still at the same level of big bad demons as they were when the campaign started. There have been some minor fluff ups. Some won by the party, some won by the bad guys. I mean, both sides here are accomplishing some goals. It's not lopsided. Militarily, just pure combat. Usually the PCs are coming out on top, but they're not always stopping the goals. Determining the future of the Delta Coast. I'm looking at this as round 3. If Dagon's Cabal somehow wins, it's a really big deal. If the party wins, it is just another step in the campaign. PCs are supposed to win. The point is, Dagon's Cabal knows the PCs and they consider them a major threat. There are spies and intel everywhere. When the party was first entering the region, asked them to decide if they were going to lay over in the last friendly port, so to speak. And they decided to. It was just this little town. It was mostly people just trying to get away. This was a location on a river before entering what is officially the Delta Coast. But they went in, they interacted. Some of the good guys from the Delta Coast had spies here. So they knew about the party. It was a little bit clunky. Things happened kind of fast, but they were able to, talk to the party, get on common ground and give them some advice and get them to Scalza, because that's kind of the hotbed of the resistance against Dagon right now. Keep in mind, for the most part, this war is all covert. If you ask your average citizen on the Delta Coast, they have no clue that this high-level conflict is going on. However, the party was also spotted by the bad guys, and they've been in Scalza for less than 12 hours. The bad guys, most of the factions in Scalza, know that the party is in town, and they've been looking for them. So what are the decisions I'm having to make here? A big one is, how long do I want to keep the party on the coast? This can be measured in sessions and in game time. I would love for this to take about 5 sessions and several months, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen. The 5 sessions is very likely, because there's a lot of combat to be done. And there's certainly reasons not to just make it all one massive combat after another. Not all my players enjoy that. The bad guy's best choice is actually to make that happen, just to crash down all their forces on the party, and either force them to run away, losing credibility, or win to take them out. However, as I said, I really don't want to run session after session of high stakes combat. That's too much. More likely, we're going to have 1 or 2 big session fights over Scalza. It's probably going to be about a dozen Nogda vampires. Yorlin won't be there, but there'll be some 7th, maybe 11th level vampires mixed in with the hordes of Tobys. We've got one of the death cults involved, and we've got their leadership there. We've got a zealot barbarian and some high-level cultists out of the monster manual. There is a single Garistro that is almost definitely going to be involved. He is Dagon's head in the area. One of the party's options was to try to take out him in his lair. It is pretty well known by the partisans in the city where that was, and the party just decided to go a different route. There was a lot of choices, so any of them were good. The route they have gone might turn out to be the best. Who knows? And some dragons are around too. There's a potential for bringing in dragon allies, but there are bad guy dragons as well. Now, there will be allies around. There will be people just on the streets that want to fight the cultists, that want to fight the demons. There'll be town guard that are trying to operate. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be hectic. A lot of people moving around the board. A lot of pieces in the field. And I like that kind of fight. It pushes me. It's stressful. It's a lot to keep up with. But it's fun. And that's what prep's for. You make your notes to make this complicated combat possible to run. And for my tactically minded players, it is a. I think that they really enjoy this kind of thing. I hope they do. Not all of them are that tactically minded, and sometimes our sessions are devoted to the people that don't like tons of combat. So, either way, the party is going to have to do the heavy lifting, regardless of allies on the field. Things are going to be a little split up. Not all the fight is probably going to happen all at once, but certainly all within the span of even just a short rest. They're not going to have much time to relax, so there might be breaks, but not long ones. Now, there's also the optics. There are dangers here. If the party causes a lot of collateral damage, and they might very well get blamed for that destruction. They are foreigners here, and the bad guys are charisma warlocks. I mean, public relations is built into their characters. High charisma, high persuasion. They are good at PR. That is how they did most of their takeover of the cities that they control. It's through propaganda, through convincing individuals and significant parts of factions like their town guards, different temple staff, that hey, you need to listen to us. We are going to make things better. From the outside, as players, you never trust the demon worshipping vampires, but when you're in game and you're dealing with these high charisma, charm capable people, you know, it doesn't always work out for you. Second big danger, as far as optics and collateral damage and stuff goes, is setting off a wave of, well, I can't say it because YouTube doesn't like it, but there are a lot of these personal unaliving cults around. So potentially thousands could, end themselves if faced with this big unrest, urban brawl, chaos in the city. Very nihilistic culture. A lot of people are not very well off, pretty miserable, and they are promised an end of suffering if they end their own suffering. A lot of the Eastern religions and philosophies on Earth, that's what the afterlife is that it's this idea that the real world is suffering and that the afterlife is an end to that suffering. An extinction of the soul is a reward. And that's kind of similar here. Except it's much darker here than it is in the real world. So this street fight is the first big battle of the Delta Coast conflict. Potentially the next big mission would be some role playing. Maybe a session, maybe half a session, maybe more than a session. Trying to bring in local forces, especially Southern forces, into this conflict. This would be directed as a move against the city of Pego de Mundo. And that name is really starting to grow on me. Occasionally, I don't know if anybody else thinks it's a good one, but I like it. It's sticking with me. Popular opinion is that Demunda is so deep in Dagon's clutches that so many people have been influenced to believe that the direction they're going is the right one, that the only choice is an actual military takeover. And I like running big combats too. I don't know if I'm good at it. I think I am. I'm confident that I think I know what I'm doing. But full military siege and invasion of the city. And that would definitely burn some of that time because armies take time to activate, to move, and get into position. I mean, that might be an entire chapter of this campaign. Again, though, the party has a lot to do with what's happening, so it's hard to predict because I've given them lots of choices. And with this army moving, the party might very well need to move with them to protect them from high-level attention, like major demons and such. Now there is also the Nogda stronghold in the city of Vico Marino. That is where Yorlin is. There is a Garistro demon there. It is an area he might feel compelled to die defending. Its loss would destroy the Nogda's alchemical production, which is a huge moneymaker for them. And if they've already failed in Scalza and they're about to fail in Vico Marino, I mean, Yeah, the individual vampires might run away to live another day, but if Yorlin, is a complete failure, Dagon's not going to be happy with that. And, well, when you annoy major demon lords, bad things usually happen. There's also a lot of intel to recover in that stronghold. That kind of thing is hard to grab. I mean, diaries tend to get burned and destroyed, but it can happen. So far, the party has done an amazing job of missing every single chance of getting a hold of detailed insights into Dagon's campaign. It's always there. They always just go the other direction. But that's part of the thing about giving lots and lots of options and things that parties can do is sometimes they choose one way and sometimes they choose another. Just in this case, they've never gotten, some commanding officer's private notes. Now, I know I'm doing a lot of rambling here, and maybe that's part of the lesson. As a DM, one of the tricks is to build the components of a campaign. You put them together as needed when things happen, because you want the party to be able to make their own plans. And when you're acting in an open world, big region, there's lots of choices. Now, I know that there's going to be Vrock and imps around. I've got sheets prepared, which, I mean, at this point, those are very simple creatures. I know there's a trio of bad guy dragons at my disposal, at Yorlin's disposal. And they may be part of the street brawl if I feel like that it's needed. It may be a part two to the street brawl after it's simmered down, but before the party's really had time to rest. Or I may pull them completely, depending upon what the fatigue level is for me and how I feel it is for the party. And then there's two good guy dragons in play as well, but that's completely up to the PCs whether they try to involve them. They are known to be demon haters, but there are reasons not to try to get them to join because they are red dragons and they are not super friendly. There's some ties, connections, but my dragons aren't super alignment locked, but they do still tend to act within their intended design. So there might be ramifications for pulling them in. On the other hand, two ancient dragons on the battlefield is a freaking game changer. That is huge. A lot of this for me is determining exactly what assets the forces of Dagon have here. I know that there's a major military unit, mostly orcs and giants, but they're weeks to the south, and they're not coming this way. They're involved in some other stuff. I know that he has a navy because he's recently taken over some island nations. I know that there's a military capability there, not just on the water. A lot of this is tracking what they lose and kind of in my head keeping a point system for who's ahead. The good guys have taken big hits and the bad guys are taking some too. My next session goal, we are going to open up immediately with this street combat scene. I laid the groundwork for it at the very end of last session, and it is probably going to consume the entire next session. I want it to be high stakes. I want the party to consider running a few times. I want them to worry they might lose people. I also want them to know that if they do not make the right choices, that the city will suffer. I mean, once this is all broken open, there's no reason to hold back for the bad guys anymore. I want them to have to make some death saves. I want them to have to choose between doing damage and saving civilians at times. Now, starting conditions for the fight, I've got one last variable, and this is what's going to make it so much fun, potentially. My sorcerer in the group, sorceress, sorry. She teleported a prisoner that she had captured back to their home base. He is secure, and she has used another high-level spell slot to poof back to their original meeting place in Skalza. But she botched her roll. So she's ended up in the general area. She's in a basement. It's going to be near the fight. So, she's not going to be isolated. She's going to be able to act pretty much from the first round. But she also had a wild magic surge. So there's that. And it's a good one. She gets to roll every round for the next 10 rounds on the wild surge table. And I just don't use the table as is, especially in a situation like this where you got a lot of chaos going on. My process is that she will make her rolls. We'll see what the chart says, and then I will modify it if I see a way to make it fun. Uh, Not only has she, not only is she a wild magic sorceress, I do some extra things with wild magic. I gave her the opportunity to take a feat that enhanced her wild magic, and on top of that, there's been events in the world that justify me taking liberties with it. So, I mean, that's going to be it's so much potential for chaos and fun. The combat oriented characters are gonna I think enjoy it. The battle map is complicated. There's lots of things to do. This is an urban environment with the potential for collateral damage and for big spells and big moves all over the board. I'll do my best to give you a good report on it when that's all over. It's about a week away. Well, actually, assuming I don't run into a problem putting up this video on Friday for you guys, the big fight's tomorrow. I hope that despite this style of video that you guys all got something out of it. Let me know. I mean, I've done a lot of almost free-form talking. I mean, I do have the script. I've kind of deviated here and there. I've done a lot of adding to it. It's probably going to make the video very long, but we'll see what happens. Next week, we are definitely doing my teleport rules. I need to get this cleaned up, and I might as well make a video out of it and see what you guys think, and hopefully it'll be something that you can use in your campaigns. After that, it's probably going to be time again for some highly generic world building stuff. Maybe building a small town or something inside a particular biome, or using some other thing, some other aspect of the game to build around. Leave a comment if you got an idea. I'm pretty blank on it right now. I'm sure I won't have a problem when the time comes for the script. But if you want something, now's the time to say it. And I will do my best to work it into the video. Tell me if you like the more campaign-oriented content. I can do more. I can do less. I have no shortage of material to do videos on. Also, what about the TikTok? Is it doing any good? Has anybody been there? Has anybody seen it? Did you come here from there? I would love to know if it's doing me any good. I've hit a little bit of a rhythm with it, so I might keep it up either way, but if I don't hear anything about you guys knowing it exists or seeing it or caring about it, and if you don't, that's fine. It might be something I let lag. TikTok seems a little degenerate oriented, and I'm not sold on it. However, no matter how you got here, I'm glad that you did. You guys are all important to this station and to the world that we live in. I am glad that we got to spend some time together today. I love you all. Cheers.